Richie Hofmann.
Like, I never get my cool shirts in the shot, but whatever. Now suddenly we're getting like lots of people emailing us asking to be on the show, and I feel like it's because Meghan made it cool.
She gave us like an instant kind of credibility.
I will listen back and be like, I sound like a goofball, so I'll just listen to what you said and then go with that.
Well, if you're ready, let's go. Things are going well. Okay, I feel like you this time because I'm going to say my life is a dumpster fire.
Yeah, we've switched roles.
Awesome fire. No, it's
Wow.
just a week. Like,
Oh, serious? I mean, yeah, I know it started with the head lice. That was like
ice.
that was the beginning of the downfall.
And I don't want to even, I am actually going to quote you on this when I said, oh my God, my daughters have lice. And you're like, I didn't know that it was a real thing. I thought it was just something on TV and in red states.
Absolutely true. That is, I was like, what? I thought it was just like a comical thing that like sitcoms offered.
It's real. And let me tell you, you haven't lived until you've combed every single strand. Now you see my hair, right? Like my girls have hair like mine, thick, beautiful, luscious hair. Mine's nice. Theirs was full of lice. I had to
good.
them out. So that happened, and then Bert had to go out of town. So he was out of town during the lice period.
I'm sure he hated that. He was like, and I'm out.
Oh yeah, he's like, gosh darn, that sucks, but I'll see you in 4 days. So it's not just like combing out the lice. Then it's like, then you have to go into like crazy sanitation mode. I had to put like their pillows in like trash bags for 48 hours. I did like, I did get a new steam cleaner, which I love. So it's kind of like, all right, I'll steam clean like everything, it's an emergency. So I steam cleaned everything. Then I had to do like a ton of laundry. Fast forward, like getting everything under control. Like it's going so well. So I was still single parenting. I had to do this like sort of shuffle where I had to take Henry to his soccer game, Coralie to her guitar, pick Coralie up from guitar, get Henry, like, so it was just like a big drive all over town. I was gone for about maybe like an hour and some change. Came home to find out that somebody in the house, I won't throw which child of mine under the bus, clogged the toilet and it running. So the toilet overflowed for like over an hour. So it went into my second floor bathroom, obviously all over the floor.
Yeah.
Dropped through to the basement bathroom, which is right directly underneath the one with all the like drop washer dryer situation that we have. There was probably like an inch of water on the floor, like soaked through all. We have drop ceiling, so at least we were able to replace those, but soaked through. So I had to clean shit water from both bathrooms. So the steam cleaner got a lot of work done. Then, just now, when getting ready to record, I was going to throw in a load of laundry, and I don't know if it has anything to do with all the water that came through the ceiling, but now my washer doesn't work. So Bert, actually, I just heard him come home. He came home early to help figure out this.
You're like, I need additional assistance. I need backup. Like, this is not working.
Yeah, I was like, I need backup, but also I have to record my really important podcast. So I'll meet you when I'm done. And this is like serious business. So
I know. I did that with the puppy. I'm like, Lydia, I know you're in a meeting, but you don't have to present. You're on mute. Your camera's off. Just take the puppy. I have a recording. Like, we're really taking off now. So
we are, though. We're up to 38 subscribers on YouTube.
40 now. 40? It is 40. We've busted into the 40s. We are at 40 currently, which is I was actually pretty pleased with that. I looked at it just this morning.
Nice.
Our website went live. We have like over 1,000 something views on it already. The first poem that we published over at the Seat, Clint Margrave's poem, has over 130 views, it's really interesting to be able to see how many people actually view a page. I mean, if we had a print journal, even if you have subscribers, you have no idea who's reading what,
Yeah.
realistically. It's really nice to see that people are actually reading the poem, because we have so much faith in these poems and we love these poems and we're sharing them in many ways. And it's just great to see that kind of, being paid forward through other people's attentions. I totally didn't even think of doing a roasty bio today. I totally spaced out. I don't know
Figured you
why.
would. You're under the weather. Okay, you
It's
get a pass.
fine. Yeah, I know. I am just recovering. So, but anyways, so welcome to Table for Deuce. With me, as always, is Kate Hanson Foster, co-founder, co-editor of Table for Deuce and The Seat Poetry and Reviews, which is our newly opened and started poetry and review journal, which is what we're doing, which is a great little thing. Everyone should look at it and submit and read and support. But Kate Hanson Foster is the author of Midriff and most recently Crow Funeral. So please welcome the brilliant, the funny, the talented, and the hardworking Kate Hanson Foster. The shit cleaning, lice removing.
Do all the dirty work. I don't know why you think I did a roasty bio. I'm just gonna state the facts here. So anyway, I'm here with Mikey Schmeltz, editor-in-chief of Floating Bridge Press, author of multiple collections of poetry, including Blood Song, Elegy. Wait, no, sorry, I scribbled a little. Wait, is it out?
Elegy, Elk River,
yeah, Elegy, Elk River. Sorry,
yeah.
my things all scribbled. An Empire of Surrender. He has received so many awards, so many, such as the Wandering Aengus Press Award, Jack Straw Fellowship, was a finalist for other awards such as the Jake Adam York Prize and the Washington State Book Award and the Coil Book Award. And speaking of awards, Michael has earned several non-literary awards as well. Most recently, the Android Overlord Award, recognition for his unyielding resistance of joining the I realm.
I'm gonna ruin everyone's chats with my disgusting text bubbles.
Your green bubbles.
Just like giant boogers on your on your little phone screens. Take that, all of you.
Little phone screens. I have got the iPhone 14 Pro Max. It's like the cock and balls of phone.
And I blame you, because now like half of my content is like people making fun of androids. Like whenever I'm on Instagram, I'm like, how does it know? Like, why does it know Kate's making fun of me?
Androids bring down your home equity. They like lower your credit score. We have obviously a really good show today, which is the second part of our talk with Meghan Merchant. And it's our Toaster Roast segment. If anyone has watched the show, they know that we take our time reading it. We thoroughly read every poem that's brought to us. We think about it. We talk about it. We give it so much treatment. But, we each have our own taste. We have our own thoughts, our opinions, and just like everybody else. So we try and be super honest with how we discuss our poems and where we ultimately land at the end of the day, if it's on the toast side of the spectrum or the roast side. And even though it is a spectrum, we have to land on one or the other. So that's what that's all about. And Meghan brought a poem for us to discuss, which was Richie Hofmann's French novel.
Yeah. So it's an interesting discussion. And as always, like Kate said, we put in as much care and respect to the craft and the poet as we can. Like, we are absolutely in admiration of the people who do this. It is thankless work most of the time, unless you're Richie and you just get all the accolades. But still, even so, I understand. I am sure Richie Hofmann is also putting in a lot of unseen labor and work and care into the craft as well. So any poet that we're reading, even submissions, we take a lot of time with. And that's the whole point of what we do, is to really slow down and carefully consider everything that comes in front of our face. And, you know, whether or not we like it is less important than the fact that we want to be in dialogue with it. And that amount of respect that we're trying to give is hopefully what people take away. That is our latest episode. And as we go on, we are on a very regular publishing schedule over at our website. Some weeks you will get a new poem, and then in between the new poem publications over at the Seat, you'll get a blog post from one of us. And sometimes it'll be a single poem review that we've been working on. Sometimes it'll be a post about some other review or something that we're doing, or an update about the website or the journal. So just keep visiting, keep reading, keep supporting the authors that we are looking at, and and we'll have special treats as we go along and as we expand and keep working. So the more you poke around the website, the more you will find. So that's the treat. It's going to be good stuff. So we hope you enjoy the experience. All right, there you have it. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for those who have been reading and supporting and subscribing to our channel and all that. Like, we really enjoy what we do here, and we hope you enjoy it as well. And if you don't, like I said, you can send us criticism. We will read it on air, most likely, as long as it's not too mean. Because I'm sensitive and I'll cry.
Oh, I'm not. Bring it. I'm fine. I'll be fine.
Stay tuned for the next episode with Megan Merchant and our discussion of Richie Hofmann's poem, French novel, and we will see you later. The next part of this conversation, which is our toast or roast, where our guest brings on a poem or sends us a poem from someone out in the wilds for us to look at, and we give it the once over, twice over, 3 times over, and decide whether or not we want to toast or roast it.
So Megan, you brought to the table a French novel by Richie Hofmann, published in the New Yorker 2019. You have it in front of you to read?
Yeah, it's in his book, 100 Lovers. French novel. You were my second lover. You had dark eyes and hair like a painting of a man. We lay on our stomachs reading books in your bed. I emailed my professor. I will be absent from French novel due to sickness. You put on some piano music. Even though it was winter, we had to keep the window open day and night. The room was so hot, the air so dry, it made our noses bleed. With boots, we trekked through slush for a bottle of red wine we weren't allowed to buy, our shirts unbuttoned under our winter coats. The French language distinguishes between the second of two and the second of many. Of course we'd have other lovers. Snow fell in our hair. You were my second lover. Another way of saying this, you were the other, not another.
So Megan, feel free to lead the conversation here and let us know why you chose this poem and what you like about it.
Well, this poem made me really angry. Because I decided after reading it, why bother writing? This exists in the world. Like, why even try after this point? So it made me very jealous and angry and all of the things. I'm always reading poems. I'm always looking for examples. I work with poets through mentorships, and so I'm looking for things to help them with their toolkit. And I came across this one, and I was just like, I don't even know how to break this down or describe what's going on, but it gave me all of the feels immediately, and I became slightly obsessed with it. So that's why I brought it to the table.
First of all, I love the opening line. I don't mean this in any kind of negative way. There's a certain kind of genericness as far as like non kind of general descriptions of things, as far as like I will be absent from French novel due to sickness. Like it's not flu, it's not stomach issue, it is just sickness. There is, quote, some piano music, they buy a bottle of red wine. Like there's all these kind of more general descriptions. And then you get down to the part about the French language distinguishes between the second of two and the second of many. And you have the part that is like, there are all these kind of like generals. And then you get to this part where it's like how the French language has these very specific differentiations. And I love that kind of pivot that occurs in this poem. It is a very like emotion evoking poem. And I get where you're coming from when you say you feel these things. A lot of the things that this poem does that I would normally kind of ding another poem for, they get away with so well. And trying to figure that out has been a lot of fun. Like, how did they do it?
I think those generalities invite you into that space and allow you to be a participant instead of just a witness to this poem.
The details of what's happening around aren't important, but like the life experience that is happening is. And so it's like, it doesn't matter the wine, it doesn't matter like the piano music. I don't know, it got me really into thinking about, how many inconsequential milestones we have in our lives. Like that, it's not that it doesn't matter if this is a second lover. There's nothing of real consequence here, but it's meaningful and, in these kind of strange ways. I have not read the book, so I know that, but I have kind of figured out that this is a book about lovers. I don't know, these kind of weird milestones that we mark in our lives for whatever strange reason, and not even really being able to articulate why it's momentous. That is what stuck with me the most in reading this, and then reading it again and reading again and being like, what is it about, the number two? Like why, or how, the number two doesn't get enough play. Like why we don't talk about number twos enough.
We don't watch movies about like you're my second lover and what happened unless it was really traumatic.
I mean, we could always just reasonably say, okay, well, your second lover, you're less intimidated, there's less to lose, quite literally. It got me thinking about what wasn't said in the poem, especially even in just the title, because I had to do, I went down, did a little Google trip, I like to take a little drive down Google Avenue every time I get a little confused. I found the word deuxième, the French word for the second if there's more, if there's many. So if there's two, it's second. If there's more than two, it's called deuxième. And I kind of wanted that word. I wanted that word somewhere, either the title or in the poem or what, because that word is so fascinating. It sounds cool. And I didn't really know about it before.
If he showed up to French novel, he may have learned the word. But he called in sick, so like
I do love that line though, due to sickness. There are so many of those moments in here that I really do like. And there's something about this particular time period where it's like that kind of, it seems younger, obviously, because having to email your professor is definitely a certain kind of time period usually. Living in a place where it's like you have to keep the windows open even during the winter. I mean, all of this is a very kind of specific time and place in a person's life, and you look back on it with a certain kind of fondness. And I think the poem captures that really well. It's like, oh, there was a certain kind of charm to that life, and a certain kind of like just a haze that happens when you look back on things like that. And I think this does such a good job of just doing that without, like you said, Megan, without forcing that specificity to a point where you're part of it. You're not just a witness to it.
There's nostalgia in here for that time period in his life more than the person, which had it been a poem about longing for this other person, there I think would have been more details about the you in the poem. But instead, it's all like landscape and circumstance and the things happening, the red wine, the piano music, the class, not being able, really, you shouldn't be buying the wine, so we know you're young, right? So this poem has that feeling of nostalgia in there for me And it's not even really about the person, which is kind of sad if you're his second lover, I guess, but also really beautiful.
There is a lot that the reader has to do, I think, with, when we say like nostalgia, we're inserting like our own kind of memories, our own experiences to say, oh, this is a nostalgic poem, because it's relatable. And I think the intentional ambiguity, the intentional figurative language, like a painting of a man, that's like the reader has to do the work to put that man in their own head. That's a bold move, I think, to ask that much out of a reader, to say, like, you get this, you get what I'm saying. It comes across powerful to me. And then at the same time, I'm like, I just want a little more. Like, I just wish we talk, like, I want to talk more. Like, now that this idea has been put in my head of Deuxième, and like, and the difference between being the second of many, as opposed to being the second of two. I want to talk about it more. I want to read about it more. I want to think about it more. I feel a little bit of emptiness at the end, like that I had, like, I'm not fulfilled. I don't feel 100% fulfilled by it.
I get that.
So for me, I definitely like initially, like I said, there are a lot of other poems written by different people that would probably ding for having some of these generalities or not mentioning the actual French word, things like that. What I kind of love is the underlying effect of time or the past. That "you were my second lover" as an opening line really works for me, and repeating that phrase later on in the poem works for me, even though I can see it wouldn't work in a different kind of poem, which is such a weird thing to say. I think individually, if I just looked at it, it's kind of a weaker line, but then within the context of this poem, it becomes very powerful for me. And the last two lines, "you were the other, not another," I really, really love, for the sense that there is that moment in a relationship while it's occurring where you don't really know, like looking at something like from where we are now, looking at the past and remembering like that kind of hopeful person where you didn't know where it was going. It's such a really interesting moment to be in. And I think the ending of this poem kind of touches on that, as far as like, there was a time when this was the other lover, not the second of many. They were the second of two. And I think that is such a beautiful, like interesting, like fluid moment to be in.
I think I was spoiled by this poem because I read it in the collection. So I read it along the way, and there's such an interesting thing to note about a poem that's a standalone poem versus a poem that's in service to the collection as a whole, and what information has come to us beforehand, and how that's echoed or developed, and how those themes are kind of played through. And so I think maybe I was a little bit spoiled by that.
Even as an individual poem too, I don't want to give any kind of impression that I don't like it. Like, I think there is enough in this just on its own that really does bring up certain kind of feelings in a certain kind of time and space that I think is really beautifully done. And I think part of that is what we talked about a little bit as far as the pacing goes. I mean, these are very clean, well-paced lines. They're not repetitious in rhythm. It doesn't get boring as far as to the ear, or when I'm reading it out loud, it doesn't get boring to my like mouth. I keep talking about my mouth, but I like poems are a lot of mouth feel for me, it seems like. And this is definitely one that's like, there are just enough variety in the music of it that it doesn't get old. There's so much conscious effort in building this poem that I think went into it, that I enjoy that on a craft level.
I think it zeroes in on that very brief moment between two and many. It stops in that space. The other ones that come after don't exist in this poem right now. It is actually down to almost like two firsts. That it's like, you were the other, almost like you were the other first. I think it just puts this extra weight on that concept of deuxième. And so that, yeah, I mean, I'm in that. I can't get myself out of it because I think it's so fascinating just that space that you are in, how brief it is before you move on. Of course, we will have other lovers, of course we moved on.
Mhm.
But it's living just so briefly in this space with these very generic details because the details don't matter. It's like, I know what you are to me in this moment, and it's special. I feel like I'm like, I just want more. I just want to like, I want to get really down and dirty with this like particular concept of that number two before number two becomes a whole bunch of other people and how special that is and why it's special.
I'm always grateful for the poems that make me feel something. I spend so much time working with the toolkit. I'm like, how do we do this? Let's look at figurative language. Let's break this down sonically. Let's do that.
Mhm.
The poems that I can just read and instantly feel something, I have so
Mhm.
much gratitude for. So I think my reader brain is very different from yours in that way. And I don't really immediately look and be like, how did you do this? How can I replicate this? Or, and I'm like, why is this working? I just sit there and go, okay, cool. Thank you. I just wanted to feel
Like,
something.
this is a new idea
Yeah.
introduced to me. Like, I had no idea what, like, with that line, the French
Mhm.
language
Mhm.
distinguishes between the second of two and the second of many. That was like news to Kate. I I did not know that. It's really just a
Mhm.
colloquial thing. It's not so much I don't think it's, something written in stone that, it's just one of those things that, difference in languages. Um, but it got me thinking into just the bigger, larger ideas around it. And so it's like, I love that. I love that. Like, and what does that mean? Like when you have this is the number two of so much more as opposed to just a pair.
It is a fascinating distinction, and I love it. And one of the things I realized when I was reading this is I am generally a very like corny, sentimental person. And with the line, of course, we'd have other lovers, kind of pinged me a little bit because there's always I'm like, no, be in love forever. Like your second lover, you guys like it should have been over. Like be happily married or whatever it may be. Like there's always a part of me that like really wants that corny romantic comedy happy ending thing. And that of course we'd have other lovers is such a it's not quite resignation, but it's just like this quiet acknowledgement, not exactly sad, but there's always that sense of, oh yeah, of course, like who does have like a second that works out usually. I mean, it's usually higher up, let's say, but I thought that was just a beautiful kind of acknowledgement of not being quite sad, but just also just acknowledging like, yes, like life goes on or love moves on.
We could all probably place ourselves in a certain situation with the wine and the music and the skipping class and that kind of
Mhm.
thing is very relatable and not exactly romantic or sentimental. So I feel like, of course, there would be that line that says, "Of course," there would be other lovers. Like, to me, it was like, yeah, I mean, obviously, because if this was like, a passionate love affair, like, we'd have like, you know, we'd get the bouquet of the wine and wanna know the exact song that was
Mhm.
playing, the way we sort of put these little markings and,
Mhm.
details into experience, and this is just it's very unique poem in that way, that it really it stands on its own ambiguity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's that youthful energy to it
mhm.
of like, I'm gonna take all of these details for granted. I'm just here. I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna have 60,000
Mhm.
lovers. And so I'm not gonna remember anything specific. But then looking back and being like, that human being was important. When you get to that phase in life where you're settled, or you
Mhm.
think you're settled, and you have all these responsibilities, and you're an adult now, and you're doing all these things,
Mhm.
maybe looking back, that is kind of a blur. It is kind of a haze. But to still want to give it significance is what for me makes it almost a sentimental poem.
Like laying on our stomachs reading books in your bed is like that's sentimental to me. There's that youthful kind of taking for granted of things. And I think about like my own childhood, and when I think back on like my parents and things like that, it's like, oh, I'm in a very different place with my parents now. They're very old and I help take care of them. And then it's like you look back and it's like, oh, the things that they kind of quietly did for you that you just didn't even, I mean, like my mom was helping me do my laundry until like college. Like it was ridiculous. And then
That
like my
tracks.
wife perpetually makes fun of me to this day. Like your mom came to your dorm and picked up your clothes. Like it's like, you know, just these little things that like you just didn't really even think about until later. And you're like, God, what a pain in the ass I was to take care of for that long. Like they did not have to do that.
This
So I
poem
mean,
needs a mom knocking on the door with the
The
laundry.
laundry basket. Yes, your mom rocks, by the way.
yeah, it's like you look back on some of these things, not just like looking back on my parents, but looking back on like ex-girlfriends in high school or whatever, and you just realize like how much, like you said, like when you realize that there are also human beings with these fully realized lives and how much they do and think and feel about you during those times, it's like there is that kind of sadness that there isn't more about this person, but there is that kind of trying to like kind of memorialize it in a way or capture it in a way. And I kind of love that dichotomy of just being like, I'm trying to have this moment, but I also, it was just kind of there and it blurred by. And I don't have these specifics, but I remember some piano music and I remember that there was red wine and there are these books, and I don't have a specific book name, but I know we had books in bed, and like there's these wonderful little things that it's like trying to hold on to something that is like waking up from a dream where you're like capture these moods and these moments, but they're just kind of hazy and not quite tangible. And like I said, it wouldn't have worked for me until you get to that part about the French language and that distinction, and you're like, okay, this is a conscious move.
And it all exists in service to that moment too. If you break it down into the ending, to the understanding of why we're talking about this, why we're looking at it, why we put it under a microscope. And it's all in service to that ending. And I think that's why it punches. I too was looking at that like, now I need to learn French.
Yep.
Ruining my life, one poem at a time.
Should we go for it?
We should all lay in our toasts or roasts. Megan as the guest and the bringer of the poem. How say you? I think I know which way you're gonna go, but
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with this poem.
that is a toast.
Yeah.
Megan Merchant for the French novel by Richie Hofmann. Kate, would you like to go next?
Sure. And I too am obsessed. I do feel I still feel empty. I'm a jerk. I still feel I am like I feel like a veil has been lifted on Doozy M, and I am fascinated with this whole thing. And I'm even more fascinated when I put myself into my own life experiences, and I could think back, yeah, I don't remember what was playing on the radio. Yeah, I don't remember what we were drinking. Yeah, I don't remember this. I don't remember that. But I do know you were significant in this way. And that whole concept to me, I think of these, like I said before, like these inconsequential milestones. You know, you make the milestone. It didn't, you know, it's like it's something you mark for yourself. It just got me thinking about it a lot, and I felt like I was wanting more on that idea. I see the intentional ambiguity. I see the intentional, like, just, you know, this, it's not about the descriptions, it's about the experience. Like I could see it, but I'm still left wanting more. So I am going to be the asshole and I also want the new title. I don't like the title. I don't like the title. I felt like it was a little bit like, oh, come on, you know, find a new, you could do something like the French novel class. That was like about just as insignificant as the other details too.
For me, like I said, I love the use of kind of time and memory in this poem. the use of tenses in the poem, I think really works well. The pacing, and like on a craft level, like obviously it's like easy enough to praise. The way the poet is able to kind of navigate this, the generics, and then go into this idea of something that is about very specific, you know, that distinction. I really loved what they did. I really loved that little piece of trivia that I didn't know before about the French language. And I just thought it was really beautifully done. And there are some poems that I think the strength lies in its kind of mood. And I think this is one of those pieces for me where it's like the mood is kind of just right up my alley as far as that feeling of kind of bittersweet nostalgia, or kind of that youthful part. And I guess it's like, I don't know if it's like midlife crisis time for me, but I've been thinking a lot about like what I'm doing now with my life, like, and what I did in the past and what I thought. Just hanging out with Kate a lot online, which is like, that's its own crisis.
What am I
But
doing?
I've been thinking about like who we were and who we are now, and what we're gonna be in the future. And I love the potentials of this poem, I guess, and the tenses. And so for me, it just, because of that mood and just where it puts me emotionally, and just how they navigate that, I am toasting it. I really enjoyed this poem, and really thought they did a good job of just really presenting something in an interesting way that, I don't know, it seems on so many levels I feel like it should fail, but it doesn't. And I'm not exactly sure how and why. And there's that mystery to it that I really love. So
I will say, and I've said this a million times before when I've roasted a poem, that it's like, it's so funny because I roast it, but I'm also like, now I need that book. I need the book. I need to read the whole book.
yeah, right.
So,
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I'm on my like fourth pass through it. The compression is astounding. It's also a wonderful, I think I shall now refer to it as the nostalgia book for the middle-aged.
That lands well right here with all of us.
Meghan, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for bringing this poem to our attention and really giving us your time. We have little to offer, like, but so it is always a pleasure to be able to speak with another writer. It's obvious that you are a like manuscript consultant, teacher, editor type, because you really have a lot of wise things to say about writing and how to think about it and process it, and like kind of incorporate it into your life rather than making it your life, if that makes any sense.
Thank you. I am glad. I will listen back and be like, I sound like a goofball, so I'll just listen to what you said and then go with that.
We have amazing clips of us both saying just the stupidest things.
That's
and
perfect.
It is. So, but thank you everyone for listening to Table for Deuce. If you have any ideas about poet we should have on our show or anything like that, or any questions, comments, please write us at tableforDeuce@gmail.com. Please, the best way to support the show and our writers is to look them up and buy their books. Feel free to look up Meghan Merchant at meghanmerchant.wix.com/poet. They have many books. They have wonderful artwork. They have a children's book and a new book coming out. So lots of ways to support Meghan. So please do so. We'll have all the links up on our site. And so there you have it. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Meghan, and thank you, Kate. As always, a good time.
Yes.
Even if you choose poorly on the toaster roast, I will still be your friend. But yeah, so thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you next time.
No, you guys are people I could hang with for sure. Go to the bar and hang out.
I am such a lightweight. I am like a half a beer, and then I'm like buzzed.
You're sitting down and you're like, you are my second drink. Not another, the other.
It's the second. Mine, I have the doozy M. It's the second.
Yeah. We don't talk about number two
Don't
enough.
talk about number two enough.